Pledge. Jerry, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Joe Machado.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan. Gary Farley.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Renee Curtis.
Here.
William P. Harper.
Here.
Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. You have the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any changes or additions to those minutes?
If none, I move to approve them.
Bill, did you?
On the last item, request was denied. And it was to approve the request, carry. I think we need a change in wording there.
Got that? Okay. Anything else? Joe?
I move to approve them with that change.
Have a motion to be approved with the change so stated. Have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. It is approved. Well, we have a good audience here today, and we want to thank you for being here. We want to hear from all of you, but we have a long agenda today, and I'm going to ask those of you who need to speak in the public hearing to try to limit your statement to the board for the 3-minute limit that we have. We have studied this for some time now, all of the items before us. And so I think if you come before us and tell us why you're opposed or for something, and make it onto the subject rather than jump into other things, we can get through our agenda pretty quickly. The first item of business we have is a request by Leslie Lamb, who is requesting a special exemption for a hair salon. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-5 involves the location at 1299 Arizona Road. It's a request for special exception approval allowing the establishment of a major home-based business involving a hair salon for this property that's located in the RL zone. And it's a newly constructed home that the applicant would like to operate a hair salon from. It would be a part-time business that they would offer to do hair on the evenings, a couple evenings a week, as well as Saturdays. And the salon was actually constructed as part of the new residence. It has a separate entrance from the carport, and we do not have photos of the rooftop because it's so newly constructed. We received 2 phone calls regarding this request, just informational. No one indicated any opposition to the request, and we found that it met the criteria for a major home-based business, and that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here who is making this request? If you'll come forward, please, to the podium. Give us your name and any additional information you want to share with the board.
Craig Sewell. I built the house for Leslie and her family. They're family friends. She didn't really want to speak in public, so that's what I'm here for.
Okay. Is this a one chair?
Yes, it's the room's 11.6 by 11.6. I think I'm pretty much telling it right. I submitted everything. It's one chair. She works from home as a insurance analyst on computer and cuts hair just part-time.
Okay.
Her
Any que-
aunt has cut hair in the town of Eagleville for years and years and is trying to sell the business and retire, so she just does it a night or two a
Okay.
week.
Approximately, did you give us the time, days and time you'd probably be
I know she
working?
cuts on Mondays and Thursdays from about 5 to 7 or 8, and then on Saturday mornings from about 8 to 10 or 11.
Okay.
And her parents live in front of her. It was the family farm that was split up.
Thank you. Any other questions? Joe?
Is there room to turn the cars around and pull back out on the highway?
Yes.
You're not going to be backing out on the highway?
Oh, no, she's way off the highway.
Okay.
You can't see it constructed. The red is a horse barn where the arrow used to be the riding round pen, and that's where the house is constructed. So there's plenty of room. We turn horse trailers around it all the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Gary Farley,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, William Harper,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. The next item is a request by Mariana Flores, and this is a request for a special exemption for an accessory structure dwelling. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-6 involves the property at 2042 Grandstand Drive. It's a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling unit that does not meet the design standards for ADUs involving a property located in the RL zone. And the reason that you are considering this request for an accessory dwelling unit is because the property measures less than 1 acre, and it automatically puts it in the category requiring special exception. The applicant would like to convert an existing bonus area into an apartment for her son to reside in, so she's going to create like an apartment within the existing residence. According to the applicant, at the time of application, there were no exterior changes planned. We have received many calls regarding this request, but no one indicated any opposition. They were just curious as to what the request was. And we found that the request meets the criteria for an accessory dwelling unit. Did you want to show anything? Okay. That concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here that's representing this request? If you'll come around, please. If you go to the podium there, give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
My name is Marina Flores.
Pull the microphone down.
My name is Marina Flores. I request this application because I'm living with my son. And he's 25 years old, and he wants to be living by himself. So we bought the house both together. So he said he preferred live near to me, so he said I can go and stay in the upstairs, and it's nothing changes. It's just we got the same entrance. Just he go upstairs and has own stuff for him, and me downstairs for my other children. So
Any questions?
So did I hear you say there'll be no separate entrance?
the entrance is the same one, and we have the stairs that go to the bonus room. So maybe we're gonna have one doors, make another doors that goes just for my entrance, and then he go to upstairs, but it's the same entrance, just one go in there.
No exterior changes to your home?
No, everything is
Thank you.
going interior, yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
No.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on it?
I so move.
I have a motion that be approved. We have to have a second. Any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
I have the correct roll sheet. Gary Farley,
Yes, I wondered while ago.
Veronica Buchanan. Yes. Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Yes. Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. The next item we have is a request by Reuben Davis. This is a request for a special exception for an accessory dwelling. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-7 involves the property located at 368 Stones River Lane. It's a request for special exception approval for an accessory dwelling that does not meet the design standards for ADUs involving a property located in the RM zone. And this is the site in question. The site actually measures 6.75 acres. And the single wide in question, and that's why we're considering this request tonight on this particular parcel, is because the accessory dwelling unit involves a single wide. The single wide was located on this adjacent property. This is a family estate here. The adjacent property is now under construction with a new single-family home, and they decided to move the single wide over onto this other family property. And Mr. Davis would like the ability for his son to keep the single wide on this property and allow his grandson to live in until he's ready to construct a home on the property. And so this will not introduce a new single wide into the area. They just simply moved it from one part of the one parcel to the next. And we did receive several phone calls in regards to this request, mostly informational. We did have one person concerned about the effect on the property values. And apart from that, we found that this request meets the criteria for accessory dwelling units.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? Come around, please. You'll give us your name and any additional information you'd like to share.
Reuben E. Davis, and I live at 398 Stones River Lane. And what we're concerned here is an old family property. It's approximately 15 acres. It's been cut up to the siblings. My mother lived in the mobile home, and we're just wanting to move it for about 500 or 600 feet from where it originally sat. And it's we're not wanting to put a mobile home park or anything like that. Our grandson is in college. He's wanting to move it up there to stay in it till he saves up enough money to build a house. It won't be a permanent home for him, but he'll be the fourth generation on the place.
Any questions?
And I do have some pictures if anybody would like to see it.
Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around, please.
My name is Ryan Sebastian. I live at 212 Ziffel Drive, which is, you may not be able to see it well, but it's right across the fence there that this is located. I have talked to the individuals involved. I think it was Reuben's daughter and grandson. My concern on this is that the trailer's right up against my fence row. And we've verbally discussed about they're going to rotate it away and build a privacy fence. And I just didn't see anything in the literature here that put that in writing. So if they do that, I'm okay, no issues. But as it stands now, it's too close to the fence. And I have pictures to show as well.
Yeah, there is a setback. If he's within the setback, he has the right to set it there.
Yeah, and I have pictures that could show our view coming through our driveway and our backyard.
Okay.
So I guess that's the concerns that I've talked to the other neighbors about is it's it's very visible, and it may impact our property value.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate your sharing that with us. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Have a motion on it.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to be approved. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Be approved. Have a second on it. Any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. The next item is a request by Richard Reeves, and this is the Barrow Pit, which was approved some time ago, and they are still extracting from this area. What do you have on that?
Thank you. Application 2019-8 involves property located in the vicinity of 950 Jefferson Pike. It's a request for temporary special exception approval for a burrow pit with relief from the setback and area requirements for burrow pits in the RM zone. And the request involves this two properties. These areas here, as you can see on the map and on the aerial here. And in July of last year, they came in to request special exception approval to amend the original approval that was granted in 2012. They've continuously been out at the site extracting sand or soil from the site and providing it to the adjacent landfill. In July, they added additional acreage to the request and omitted some previously approved areas that will not be excavated. Tonight's approval is simply a renewal of the approval that was granted back in July of 2018 under the current permit, and it includes conditions that require some plat submittals once the project's concluded or within 6 months, as well as continuing to meet the original conditions that were established in the original permit. We have received several informational calls regarding this request, and no one indicated any opposition. Back in July, they indicated they were 80% complete. And Mike and John are here to talk to the activities. Oh, let's see. Previous. Did you want to go?
This aerial photograph doesn't reflect the work that they have done so far on the remediation of reestablishing a grass cover over the area. This is a dated photo, but they have done significant work on creating some green cover back over the area. They still have some work to do of some excavated areas, but due to the heavy rain that we've had this winter, it's been very difficult to establish grass and the temperatures as well. But we have been inspecting it regularly.
About the only thing you can expect out there are swimming pool conditions, right?
Yes, sir. Just maybe some ryegrass to grow in this winter, but that's about it.
Okay. Do you have any other comments?
Other than the current permit expires April 12th. If you approve the request tonight, the permit would be established for April 13th for 9 months, which would include a 3-month administrative approval. Also, what I failed to mention, they are seeking the same, the relief that they sought back in July for the setbacks and percentage of the area that's affected by the excavation activities. And apart from that, we find that it meets our criteria.
Question, Mr. Chairman? So am I hearing you say they've done everything that we've asked them to do?
mostly. They still have some work to do, but they have made significant progress in,
And they have good reason why they haven't, being the weather.
yes, sir, right.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Report on this?
Is your mic on?
Oh, does Stormwater have anything that they want to report on this?
Oh, John, I don't know if you could,
Had 3 major rain events this past year. So for them to get, before the last meeting, they did have put down grass or seed and straw. Unfortunately, with the rain, some of it took, some of it didn't. And so with my inspections, I've been monitoring their activity. And once this starts to dry up more, we'll go back and reseed everything where there was seed before and full straw on top of that. We haven't had anybody call in with any concerns regarding activities going on. And they've been keeping the dirt off the roads too.
Any other questions from the staff, for the staff up here? Honorable Ted Goodman, I'm sure you've got some comments. You'll be representing this request.
I'm Ted Goodman of Murphy and Goodman Attorneys. We represent the applicants in this matter, Richard Reeves and his wife Joan Reeves. Next slide, please. We're requesting renewal of the special exception for borrow pits. This borrow pit exception allows the Reeveses to sell clay to the adjoining landfill property, which is a necessary part of the landfill operations. And as Ms. Glauner mentioned, we're requesting the exception to be granted on exactly the same terms that were previously granted in July with no changes. Next slide, please. This is the 215.66 acre Reeves property and the 9.11 acre Rio Barro property. Both of these properties are directly adjacent to the adjoining landfill property. Next slide. This is a map of the property. That is East Jefferson Pike. This is the Riverwalk subdivision. This is the landfill property, and in the areas indicated in hatch marks, that's where the borrow pits have been approved that we're requesting to have renewed. Next slide, please. This does not extend the life or scope of the landfill. Normally, before this project, they would get their clay from off-site properties, which would require extensive dump truck trips across the public roads. If the landfill can't get the clay from this project, they'll inevitably get it from somewhere else, and they'll just have to start running extensive dump truck trips across the public road. Because all clay is removed directly from the subject property and taken across the fence line to the Republic property without ever going on the public roads. Next slide. What? Did we skip one?
I'll monitor here. Is that the correct slide?
I think we got one more.
Ted, looks like you're going to have to.
All right, I'm going to have to go without my help there. So this will remove about 50 dump truck trips a day from the public roads, which over the life of the project, that's about 60,000 dump truck trips. The Reeveses have made a number of commitments and promises to the neighbors, to the county, and to this board. Among those are that they will remove clay from only one 5-acre section or less at a time. At the end, when each section is completed, they return the topsoil to that site and restore the property. The goal of the project is 6 months after the project is complete, we want the property to look undisturbed. All borrow pits are set back at least 150 feet from all Riverwalk property lines. Excavation occurs only during daylight hours. There's no blasting conducted by the Reeves project. And all of the commitments and promises that the Reeveses have made are in writings on file with the Planning Commission. As y'all are aware, we have to come back every 6 months. We have to come back at the end of each permitting period. There's a 6-month permitting period with a potential of a 3-month administrative period. So therefore, we're required to come back to y'all at least every 9 months, which allows the board to continue to police the applicant's fulfillment of their commitments and obligations to the board, to the county, and to their neighbors. Thank you.
Any questions?
Do you happen to know when they're going to be finished?
You know, right, Mr. Reeves, do we know about when we're going to be finished? It's
Richard, if you're going to talk, you have to come up here.
Mr. Reeves will come up and give you some information on the life of the project. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. I know my voice isn't as strong as it used to be. I'm Richard Reeves. My wife and I own this property, and with the recent approval of the additional 14.4 acres that we acquired, and we transferred, actually, we gave up about somewhere around 28 to 30 acres by getting this additional 14.4 acres, and it took it away from the property lines of the property owners. So by doing this, we probably still have about 40% of our project still in play.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Entertain a motion.
I'd like to
approve.
Oh, go ahead.
I move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second.
As of the BZA one of July of 12, 2018, just extending it, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Extending it, right? Yeah.
Any further comments? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Michotto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. The next item we have is from Adelam Ingalls and Hector Plana. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-09 involves the location at 6011 Florence Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving truck storage located upon the property in the RM zoning district. And this is a layout of the site. The applicant and his wife would like to be able to park both of their semi-trucks that they both drive, and the request is to allow them to park 2 semi-trucks on the site at any given time together. And currently, under our zoning ordinance, you can have 1 semi-truck that you can drive home to your property and park on site, but in this case, they are seeking the approval of 2. The applicant indicated they weren't, that they didn't have additional employees associated with the business, that this is simply what they are seeking approval for. The site is located at the intersection of Florence Road and Sulphur Springs Road, and as you can see on this plat that was submitted, that the parking is going to take place in this blue shaded area towards the back of the property. We have received many phone calls regarding this request, mostly informational. There were some calls that expressed concerns regarding the semi-truck traffic in this area and the concerns for safety regarding the semi-truck traffic. Apart from the request for the 2 large semi-tractor trailer trucks being parked on the property, we do find that it meets the criteria for a home-based business, and that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? Would you come around, please? If you come to the podium, give us your name over here.
And John is here to help.
Sí, si necesita ayuda, le puede ayudar, pero se tiene que parar ahí.
Hi, my name is Edalme Iglesias. My address is 611 Florence Rose. So I'm little English, so maybe need help. So I have a 4 year before my business in house. So I need help for and the parking my truck and the trailer truck. I have my house have 3 acres. So maybe no problem for parking the truck and trailer, so I don't know where is some person called, so the parking is good, so you have a grabber, you have everything, and they close my area, so I don't know understand some my problems, so I don't know what it is.
You want to translate a little of that?
Yeah. Basically, on their property, they have the adequate space to park these vehicles. She's been there for, ¿cuánto tiempo han estado allí?
Por un año.
Yeah, so they've been at this residence for a year. I do know that they've put a fence around their property, and so they've made adequate.
Dile que no obstruimos nada, que tenemos como el parking bien hecho con grava, con todo, que no obstruye el tráfico, no obstruye nada, solo es como una entrada normal a la casa que no.
Basically, she's saying that they have made improvements on there by putting gravel on there and trying to maintain it site-wise.
No tenemos donde parquearse, esa es la casa.
At this moment, that's probably the best place for them to park their work vehicles.
Gary?
I've got a question. Looking at the roads and the area right there, you have another location that you could park both these trucks other than here?
¿Tienen otro lugar donde pueden parquear las trailers?
No, ese es el problema que no tenemos.
That's their issues, their problem. They don't have another place to park those vehicles.
Cuando antes de comprar la casa preguntamos que si se podía, porque en la otra casa que teníamos no había espacio, y entonces llamamos al condado, a la ciudad de Mirna, y dijeron que sí, que había espacio y que no había problema para las trailers y las trocas, pero ya después el condado Rutherford es el que dice que no pueden, o alguien que llama, no sé.
Before they purchased the home, they were asking if it would be all right to park those vehicles there. They went to the city of Smyrna, and under that, they were under the impression that Smyrna would allow that. But now they are finding out that they're confused about it because they didn't know that they were to come to the county and request it.
Are they leased to a company here in Rutherford County where they can park it in their yard?
¿Tienen una compañía donde pueden parquear las trailers?
No, es que la compañía, el negocio es nuestro, tenemos todo con el gobierno, permiso, la compañía es en la dirección de la
They
casa.
contract work out.
They're an owner-operator type of...
Yeah, so when they,
But are they leased to someone here in Rutherford County that they actually park the trucks on their yard that they're running for?
¿No tienen otra compañía aquí donde les piden trabajo?
No, es que el trabajo lo buscamos nosotros mismos con derecho, con los brokers.
Yeah, no, they have basically work all over the area, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jerry?
So what I'm hearing is they actually own the trucks?
¿Son dueños de las trailers? Ustedes son los dueños de las trailers?
Tenemos los títulos, tenemos todo de las trailers, todos.
Where do they work on the trucks, wash them, and maintain them? Where does that take place?
¿En dónde mantienen las trailers o las lavan allí?
No. Vamos al car wash y los arreglamos en el taller, solo lo que necesitamos es el parking.
Yeah, so they take them off-site to get them washed and to get them maintained. They have another separate garage where they take that to.
Thank you.
Do the trailers come with the trucks, or is it just the actual truck itself? Or is it the 18-wheel trailer that you bring home also?
Hay dos partes, entonces nomás la trailer y luego la caja atrás. Y ustedes tienen los dos, ¿verdad?
Sí,
Yeah.
los dos.
Yeah,
Una
it's
trailer y
both.
una-
The tractor and the trailer.
Tractor and the trailer
Yes.
that goes with it?
Yo tengo algunas fotos si quieren ver ellos como.
She has photos available if you would like to see that.
You have a picture from.
How do you get in and out? Do you back it out onto the road, to Florence Road, or are you pulling straight out?
¿Cómo entran y salen?
Ok. Si quiere que vea la foto ahí.
Primero, si puede contestar cómo entran.
Sí, venimos por la Florence, por la parte del cementerio, que es por la parte, y ya hacemos una izquierda, derecho al driveway, ya para el parking.
Yeah, they just come in right off the road. Basically, they pull straight in. And
Yeah, turn left. Yes, come to the, just turn left and the park. Just, it's not have a problem for parking, just everything. Okay, let me see the picture.
Any other questions? Are there other questions? That
I didn't know what you were doing. I was paying attention.
Because hang on just a second. Also, what's the need for the big 6-foot chain link fence? Why, that looks pretty. And y'all want to see this?
I'm sorry, say
A
again.
6-foot chain link fence?
Right.
Like it's like at a company that you would chain up something it's not like a residential fence. It's a
Correct.
6 or 8 foot
Chain link fence.
big fence. What's the purpose of that?
Por el propósito por la cerca que pusieron.
It makes it look commercial.
Sí, pero dicen que se ve como es un negocio comercial. Se ve porque la cerca es así, no es como de madera. So she's asking, should she change the fence?
Why does it have to be so tall?
But, well, I think it's standard 6-foot chain link. ¿Es más de 6 pies la cerca?
No, 6 pies. Es 6 pies, solo 6 pies.
She's saying it's 6-foot fence.
It just looks like something that's commercial that you would come in. It's not like your residential chain link fence.
¿Qué podemos hacer? No sé, no hay forma de ponerle un plástico afuera a la cerca o no sé cómo me pudieran ayudar ellos. ¿Qué tengo que cambiar? Pero por favor que me ayuden a ver cómo podemos dejar el negocio.
I think we need to move on. If we have questions,
We got a lot of calls. Has someone been out on the facility to look at it?
Oh, yes, we've had several inspectors go out to the site. Initially, we were contacted about the fence, and the fence was actually placed in part of the right-of-way, but the applicant, and this is a completely separate issue, the applicant revised the placement of the fence, and the fence is placed in accordance with what's allowed for along the property boundary. And there was a recent amendment in the last couple of years that allows a fence in the front yard. If you're going to place a fence in your front yard, and it can measure up to 8 feet, but it must be constructed of transparent materials. And so the fence itself, despite maybe its appearance, it is in compliance with what we allow.
okay. Joe? Okay. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request.
Thank y'all. My name is Rick Hall. I live at 5304 Rooker Road. I appreciate y'all's questions. I'm going to try to answer them from a different perspective of what she's claiming. I brought this up to my commissioner in the district. We have fought for 2 years now with semi-traffic on Florence Road coming from Broad, and the county has deemed it unsafe for those trucks in all 4 directions to get on Florence Road. So coming off Broad, Lowry Street, Florence Road from Smyrna, and 840 coming in on Sulphur Springs Road, they've deemed it a hazard to the community and have deemed no trucking signs. So this is right in the middle of that. As you said, the fence is a commercial fence. They have 3 employees, so they have a total of 5 semi-trucks that are parked there. They also have one that is broken down and inoperable. I sent pictures as well that I can show you that I took today. There's a blue truck there today with the engine up, and they're tearing apart the engine on the truck. Again, another one's laying off to the side. The floorboards are off of it. It's inoperable, been there since they moved in. They bought the place in May of 2017. And I've got a video, most important, I want y'all to watch. On Valentine's Day, I took my wife and we went out to Valentine's dinner. One of the trucks pulled out and I followed it out to Broad Street. The speed limit's 35 miles an hour. We didn't get above 20. And I want you to see at 1 minute and 17 seconds when he meets a concrete truck what happens. This is a residential area, and this is not an industrial area. This is not a commercial area. It's a housing area. And this business doesn't meet any of the requirements. And the BZA laws on your general restrictions, it states it cannot impose upon the health, public health, safety, welfare of any of the residents in the area. This is on 2.78 acres, so it meets the regulations as far as the 2-acre limit to be able to put a semi on. Semi trucks are 65 feet. If you want to know how long they are, they're 65 feet long. It takes 520 square feet to park 1 truck. 5 trucks plus a broken down one, we're pushing over 3,000 square feet on the 2-acre tract. Here's my video. As you saw the truck pull out, he had to touch the ditch on the opposite side of the road to even get out. And as it starts over, and I'll try to talk as it goes and you can watch the video. But he's touched the white line across the area. I'm a retired police officer. I did 25 years, and I was a detective in major crimes, portion of most of that, so I kind of stayed to the facts. Under item A of a residential business that y'all go on as far as it has to be associated with residential use. Semi-truck traffic is not residential use under your BZA laws. Item B, no home-based business shall be permitted that changes the outside appearance or character of the dwelling unit. 6 semi-trucks changes the outside character of the dwelling unit. Under item F, delivery vehicles used to deliver goods to home-based business are limited to passenger vehicles only. Mail carriers, express carriers such as, but not limited to, UPS, FedEx, and DHL. These are not passenger vehicles for a home-based business. They're semis. All right, we're coming up on it now, and you'll see him hit his brakes. Maximum speed we got was 22 miles an hour. You see him hitting his brakes. He almost has to come to a stop, and he met a semi-truck. This is on Valentine's Day. He's leaving out of there. This is not for, I called the road department. We don't have regulations because we don't have anybody to enforce it for roadways. What the weights of trucks or the width of the road has to be, I called TDOT, spoke to a gentleman there, and they require 10 to 12 feet for all commercial areas. So again, this barely meets the minimum standards of roadways of a county road. But I'm welcome to answer any questions, but I think I've taken enough of your time with the video there. I also have the stills, if y'all want to see them, that's on there that shows what the conditions look like today.
Jerry?
Well, I don't know that we can, in this board, we don't say who travels on what road.
I agree.
But what does concern me is you're saying that there's more than his and her trucks there. And
correct.
They do work on them.
Their own application states they have 3 employees. So this is a husband and wife. They're by I forgot the word Danielle used for me, by right, they're allowed 1 truck. They're only coming for you because they want to add a 2nd truck. But I think Commissioner Rather, this is my commissioner, I've got Ms. Rooker here as well, that'll testify today that there's been 4 to 5 semis there consistently. And there's one that's broke down and is not in use, which I provided a picture. And ironically, the picture, if you look directly across the street on Sulphur Springs Road, there's 2 semi-trucks on your own GIS photograph.
Thank you.
Let me share this with you. Whether these semis come into that or not, we don't have any authority to prevent that. And the police department doesn't either, okay? You may put signs up there, but they, you know, that would be thrown out of court if the police did something about that. You know, we've been down that road before. If they park one truck in there, they can do that. They're asking for 2, and that's the reason they are before us now, okay?
I understand completely. I will say, and I'll get you proof if you need it, but Smyrna Police Department has wrote multiple citations for, which they do have an ordinance that covers that. Maybe something they need to look at in the future, but they wrote.
Yeah, I'm just sharing with you state law.
I understand completely.
Since they pay their taxes, you know, for the big semi-trucks, they claim that they have access to any roads in the state of Tennessee. If you remember, 440 in Nashville, they tried to do the same thing, prevent the semis going on 440, and that didn't fly.
Well, I would go against that, saying that 440 is a 12-foot wide lane of traffic, not a 7.5 to 8 foot.
Well, it comes down to this also. If it's a street or a road that is not safe, then it's the county's responsibility to make it safe.
Understand.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I may disagree a little bit. I think in our ordinance, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we deny this, we can deny it a matter of public safety. If someone's pulling out on this road with something, as we've seen right there, we can deny this because it's causing the health and welfare and the public safety of the residents out there, correct?
I think what you're saying is valid. I think what Mr. Cantrell was trying to say is we can't regulate who drives on the road.
Right. But as far as if we deem it that we feel it's unsafe, we can deny the request, no matter it's a large home-based business or a small-based business, right?
Yeah, we're not at that point yet. Let's wait just a minute and see if we have any others that. Thank you. We appreciate your comment. Does anyone else? If you'll please come around, please.
I am Linda Sue Rooker, and I live at 5000 Rooker Road. In 1965, I lived on that farm when my aunt and uncle owned it. And so I am familiar with Florence Road on a daily basis. My concern is the safety of meeting wide vehicles. And I've had the experience of 3 major wreckers pulling these semis out of the ditch. The 1.1 miles between Sulphur Springs Road and Broad Street, Florence Road, has a ditch on both sides. The only place that there's not a ditch is the Mitchell's driveway, and that has a big tree in it. But otherwise, there's ditches on both sides. There's no place for them to go. They have the whole lane filled up. And if somebody came around the curve where the creek runs under Florence Road, there's a big drop-off there, and you're meeting them head-on. That is my concern, that the roads are not built for 18-wheelers. We can't say who brings the 18-wheelers down there, but it's a concern of safety for the residents that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else? If you'll come around, please.
I'm Brenda Bragg, and I live on Syracuse Drive in Smyrna. And I have the same concerns as the other people about safety. And when I saw them putting up this fence...
Talk into the microphone, please.
When I saw them putting up the fence, I called the county to ask, you know, how that was zoned. And I asked them if, you know, the fence just looks totally commercial, and it's, you know, it's all around this big property. And they have put loads of gravel in where I guess they take their trucks in. And it doesn't look like a residence. It looks like a business. And so I did call and let them know about my concern, and they said that nobody had, you know, contacted them about getting a permit to use it as a commercial property. So just want you to know that I'm concerned about that area.
So you're
as well.
opposed to it?
I am opposed,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Commissioner? Commissioner Rather used to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm sure he misses us a lot.
As every day goes by, I do. I think I was actually the one that called Danielle when I first saw the post being put up for the fence, because it was really close to the road, plus the posts were much higher than I've ever seen on a residential property for a chain link fence. So I'm talking to Danielle about that, and then I get a call from I think he's already been up here talking, but I had a resident out there call me about other semi-truck traffic. At the time I saw the post being put up, Danielle had no information, and I just knew something out of the ordinary is coming. So we just kept an eye on it for a while, and then the fence was finished, and then we started seeing the semi-trucks parked around behind there. And while all that was going on, I was having some discussion with our highway superintendent, Greg Brooks. So far, there are signs up at 840 and Sulphur Springs. There's signs up at the intersection of Florence and George Franklin. You know where Big Charlie's Bait Shop is? Well, that's George Franklin that meets into Florence Road. So if you come from the cemetery on Florence, you're going to come to a three-way stop. And these trucks, what's happening is they're pulling out of the Singer plant, most of them. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are coming out of the Singer plant headed to Nissan, and their GPS tells them to turn at the cemetery on Florence Road. There have been multiple, more than 2 or 3 accidents already. I can show you on my phone. I tried to print it out sometime today, but I ran out of daytime. One of the areas was the ditch is all you've got to go to when you get off that road. There's no shoulders. So when the truck was pulled out, I went down and took a picture. The speed limit sign was down in the mud. That ditch is much deeper now than it was, which is probably going to, accumulate some water, probably already has. So me and Mr. Brooks were talking about that traffic, and I asked him, because I had no idea, I heard, so I confirmed it with him, when the state paves Broad Street, or the state paves a state road that can accommodate that weight, is that paving different than the paving that we do in the county on these county roads? And the answer from him was yes. And I told him what was going on, and he, they've recently, not too long ago, repaved all that out there, and the one picture I took where the truck had run off in the ditch, it's tearing up the asphalt. Plus, you're having to replace the sign, the fence. I don't know whose fence that was, but it got tore up pretty good. So this is a route that there's quite a bit of traffic that uses that off of Broad Street, trying to get over in Leanna or further towards Central Valley. So one of the problems I have is that's a route that my wife takes every morning to go to school. There's already been accidents, as I've told you, which leads me to believe that the very first set of criteria, the very first criteria, does say it's unlikely that the home-based business will negatively affect adjacent properties, the neighborhood, traffic. Well, it does, because Danielle, if you can just pull an aerial up to that house that will show that three-way stop. I think there was one.
This one or the one at Sulphur Springs?
Well, that one. If you, okay.
This one?
So you see where the semi-truck is now, and I'll just say the top is north, the bottom south, and this side's west, and that side's east. That truck has crossed Nice's Mill Bridge, and it's probably not going to have too hard of a time turning right. However, when they get to that three-way stop and try to turn right on Florence, they cannot make that turn. If there's any other car there, they have to stop and wait on all the other cars to get out of the way so that they can make that turn. And even then, it's real hard pressed for them to make that turn without getting the back of their trailer off in the ditch. I look at home-based businesses. 8 years on this board, and I was always a fan of being able to work at home. I wish I could. I'm a big fan of small business because I actually own one. But when I look at home-based businesses and understand that the criteria says it must be conducted within the dwelling unit or within a approved accessory building, and then I see no display of stock and trade product shall be visible from the street. The definition of stock and trade is the equipment, merchandise, or materials necessary to or used in a trade or business. Well, this is equipment used in that business. And then just yesterday, this hit me. I was looking at E under Section 1 where it talks about storage of hazardous materials. We don't know what's in those trucks either. And to say on number 2 that it will not adversely affect other property in the area in which it's located, it will. It could adversely affect the safety of people driving down that road. Again, it's we're working. Part of the problem with the signage, where we really want it, is the beginning of Florence Road and Broad. The first 1,000 feet is actually the city. And then if you go on George Franklin, that's actually the city of Smyrna. So I've talked to Ron Balachandra. Those conversations are still going on. Mr. Brooks talked to the Smyrna city manager, which is Brian Hercules, because those roads are going to get torn up. At some point, there's going to be an accident that is going to hurt somebody. So I was the one that, I guess, started this kind of with the post, really didn't understand what was going on. And I will tell you that the majority of the time that I drive through there, which has been a lot since all this came up, there was more than 2 tractors and 2 trailers. There was at times 3 tractors and 4 trailers. But where there, I think we can all agree on the fact that there's not too many people do the speed limit anymore. And so they come down Florence, you've got that curve, and now you've got semi-trucks trying to pull out of a driveway on there. It's just a matter of time. So the folks I've talked to out there, and even myself personally, without their testimony, this is a very, very unsafe place to have tractor trailers pulling in and out of a driveway.
Commissioner, you feel like that the 2 trucks that would be parked here would add to the problems that you're already seeing?
I think 1 truck parked there adds to the problem. 1 truck parked there that's either going to pull out left or right or go kind of straight across.
Okay.
They'd have to turn right and then go straight across to go to Sulphur Springs. And even Sulphur Springs is, I mean, if you've been down it, it's curvy, it's hilly. When I was a reserve deputy, I actually worked a few wrecks on there. One was a fatality where 2 cars hit head-on and a 3-year-old child died. Florence Road is no different. And 1 more semi-truck, in my opinion, based on living out there and driving that road quite often, is certainly beyond a shadow of a doubt jeopardizes the safety of anybody else that's on that road.
Okay. So you're opposed to the special exemption for this?
I am.
Okay.
Now, I know I'm beyond.
I'm trying to pin you down.
I think I'm at a minute. I've talked so far, so I've got 2 more minutes. There are places, and I'm just going to go ahead and mention the name because I used to work there. Swanson Developments owns a couple million square feet of property in Rutherford County. Owns 1 million more in other places. I personally leased space for semi-trucks that weren't allowed to park in their subdivision. And we would measure the square footage of the semi-truck. We would find a building that, had a lot of asphalt to it, and we would lease for folks just like this, based on that square footage, that they could park their trucks there and lease that space. So there are several places across Murfreesboro, I'm sure even in the county, that somebody could park a semi-truck rather than park it behind their house. And I mean, you come from Broad on Joe Franklin and come in that way, it's just, you got this huge fence and you've got several trailers and semi-trucks, and who's next out there? If we've approved this one, now we got to approve the next one. So really for safety reasons, if this gets approved, I'm going to have to ask my wife to take a different route to her school every morning. But, I could go through some other things on here that I don't think meets different criteria, but the safety is the number 1 issue I have with it.
Any questions for Commissioner Rather? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, based on what I've seen here tonight and the testimonies, I make a motion that we deny the request because it's based on it will adversely affect the neighborhood out there due to public safety.
Okay. Did you get all of that? Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is denied. The next item we have is a request by Carrie Patel, who is requesting a special exemption for square feet general retail over 5,000 square feet. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-10 involves the property located at the corner of Veterans Parkway and Barfield Road. It's a request for special exception approval allowing greater than 5,000 square feet of general retail space on the parcel located in the Rural Center zoning district. And this is a 6-acre site that was approved as rural center zoning after the new zoning ordinance was established. And in 2017, the applicant came in and before you and sought special exception approval for the mini storage facility to be developed on the portion of this property. And the remaining portion was always intended to be a convenience store. However, in the rural center zoning district, it limits general retail space to 5,000 square feet. And so the applicant revised their plan and was hoping to establish a general retail space of 6,000 square feet on this property. And the zoning ordinance requires special exception approval to exceed that 5,000 square feet. So we're here before you today seeking special exception for this additional 1,000 square feet. Once or if they get approved today, they'll proceed to the next stage, which would be site plan review, and they would have to appear before the Planning Commission for approval of the development of the site before they could move forward with any construction. We did receive several informational calls regarding this request. As a result of those calls, we did get some comments regarding the traffic issues that they are experiencing in this area. However, no one indicated opposition to the request that we're considering tonight. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this? If you'll come around, please. Come to the podium up here. If you'll give us your name and any additional information.
Your Honor, I'm Mark Kent, Rutherford County Bar. I represent Mr. Harry W. Wolstenholme. He is a resident of 2862 Barfield Road, which is adjacent to said property. There is a complaint for declaratory judgment. There is pending litigation in this matter regarding an easement on his property. We're in the discovery phase of that pending litigation, and I would ask this board to stay any and all decision until the pendency of that complaint is determined by the court. I have not seen my colleague Jay Barger here. He represents Mr. Patel in this matter. The easement is what I would call a prescription easement. It's been in use for many, many years, and it's directly adjacent to the property, and that is exactly what is in dispute, is the easement that you see directly above the lower left-hand line there. And it's my understanding that this particular easement is addressed in the motion before this honorable board. And I don't think that we can determine whether this action filed before this board is actually valid until that is decided.
Can you come to the mic? Yeah.
It's representatives.
The applicant's here. Okay. If you'll come around.
Who's speaking at this time?
Right.
I'm sorry. It's my mistake. Come on around.
I didn't know he was here.
Yeah. We need the applicant to speak first.
Rob Mulligan, SEC, on behalf of Cherry Patel in regards to this matter on that side. Aside from the litigation, we were here 2 years ago and request for the special exemption for the mini storage on that side. Since then, we've worked through our plans to more or less get to the point where we're about ready to come forward with site plan. We more or less solidified our plan in regards to what we wanted to do with the retail portion of this property on that side, and so we realized that we've got an opportunity to increase our square footage a little bit beyond the maximum requirement of 5,000 square feet, add an additional 1,000 square feet to the facility to allow for extra retail space besides the more or less the gas station store point on that side as well. So that's where we're at in regards to what our request is today on that side. As to the litigation, I can't speak to that. I'm not part of the legal portion of that, but I will say that this is that is a separate matter aside from what we're asking today on that regards. We're asking simply for today as a more or less a exception to allow for an additional 1,000 square feet of retail space to go along with this. In regards to litigation, I can't speak straightforward for that. My client's attorney is not here to speak for that, and I don't think this is part of the proceeding that should be handled today in regards to that litigation. I'm available for questions.
While he's
Well, I just want to get my boundaries right here. Coming from Church Street, it's on the right-hand side on the corner of facing Church Street, the Barfield and Veterans, right?
It's on the northeast corner of Veterans and Barfield, so it's on the side that's along as you cross the bridge coming over the river. It's that first piece of property as you're coming away from 231 heading towards down towards Rockville on that side.
okay. Any other questions while he's up? Thank you. May be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing now. If you'll come around, yes. Anyone else would like to speak on this, come on around.
I apologize for speaking out of turn.
It's okay.
Mr. Patel is a part of a litigation, and I have the verified complaint here which has been served upon him, and it is directly related to this piece of property that is in question today before this board. And that litigation must be decided prior to the ownership of that piece of property being delegated to one party or another. And I have the complaint for declaratory judgment with me, and I also have the diagram of the property as exhibits, and I also have a contract between Mr. Patel and the seller of the property to whom Mr. Patel sold the property to, which states and acknowledges that particular easement. And this is exactly at matter or at point here today, which is before this board. And I would implore you that this is a legal issue. This is a prescriptive easement, which is a easement that was known when Mr. Patel bought this property, and it has been in existence over 20 years at this point. This piece of property is in dispute. There has been discovery. The complaint was filed on August the 28th, 2018. There's discovery that has been returned to Mr. Barger on behalf of Mr. Walstenholme. It's been certified by him. And we have reached out to Mr. Barger for mediation on this, and at bare minimum, I would ask this board to table this or to deny it outright until such determination is made by the Honorable Chancellor of Rutherford County, Tennessee.
Are you currently in litigation over this? Is it in the courts now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. May be seated.
May I sit down?
Next.
Good evening, Board. My name is Kyle Schilling. I live at 1004 Christie Charlene, which is just in kind of the upper left corner of that picture there. I'm also the president of the Martha's Haven HOA, which is the neighborhood shown there. And not just those homes up in that corner there, but our subdivision also includes a couple of the houses that are directly across from the property that we're discussing. I just have a couple comments regarding this. I was not around during the initial discussion about this property being developed, but I guess I would challenge the board that if we have maximums such as this for certain property sizes, why would we allow it to increase beyond that? The maximums were set for a certain reason. And what I really want to stress is that the traffic in this area has not really been considered, and this is unfortunate that it's one of the areas in the city where the county and the city really overlap and don't often know what each other is doing. For example, I'm going to guess that most of the board members are not aware that 1,000 feet just to the west of this is a proposed urban development, because that was passed by the City Planning Commission and they were not aware of these this property being developed. So the increased traffic along here is being increased by both kind of parties without knowing what's going on with both. We have significant concern with the traffic on Barfield Road as it stands now. The proposed property just to the west of this is going to create a cut through. It's proposed through the neighborhood shown there, where you see the stub. And with these properties being developed here, there's going to be a significant increase of traffic along Barfield Road, also increasing the traffic that is going to cut through the Martha's Haven subdivision there. So please consider that. Please consider the other developments that are going along in this area. If it's already been approved, I understand that, but I see no reason why it needs to be increased in maximum size. I think they should offer a business case for that, and if there is a case for increasing that, it's only going to increase the traffic even more, so that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public hearing. My thoughts on this now, we probably need our county attorney to look into this. It's information that the planning office did not have, and we probably need to delay this. It's up to you guys, though.
Moved. So moved.
Have a motion that it be delayed.
Second.
Have a second. Call a roll.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I want to say this. This was in my county commissioner district when I was commissioner out there, and what the gentleman just got through saying, it is an issue as far as traffic. And I voiced concerns back when this first started many years ago, and I still have those same concerns tonight that I had back then, and I wanted to let people know that up front.
Thank you.
1 meeting to next meeting?
I'm not sure when it'll come back.
Okay, all right. Just curious.
We have, it's kind of up to us whether we get the information back from our attorney. Okay. And probably not next month. Okay, thank you. We're going to deal with the cell tower at this time. We'll get to this other procedure. I know that a lot of you here. We'll get this out of the way really quick, and it'll give you all more time. What do you have on the cell tower, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-12 involves a property at 2930 Barfield Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a monopole communications tower measuring 199 feet in height on the property located in the RM zone. And the site is a 25-plus acre site. The applicant would like to erect a tower in this portion of the property towards the rear of the property where you see the arrow. They have submitted a third-party consultant's review by Mr. Larry Perry, which was included in your packets. And Mr. Perry made recommendations, and the applicant has submitted the letters that Mr. Perry recommended that the applicant file, which is the co-location letter, and once the tower is no longer in use, it will be decommissioned. These are site drawings of the tower, its location on the site. As you can see, it's on the elevated portion of the site towards the rear. They will improve the existing driveway and create an access road towards the site to access the site. And the tower will provide co-location opportunities so additional providers can use that same tower. We received informational calls only. No one indicated opposition or being in favor of the requests. And once they were to get approval tonight, they would still have to submit site plan drawings where we would review the landscape buffer, the dimensions, the setbacks of the property, the access drive, and all of the other details that are shown on the site plan. And that concludes our presentation.
This is, the site you're pointing out there would be at least 199 feet from property lines.
No, but the applicant did submit a letter from an engineer indicating that it would fall upon itself and not exceed the distance of the height of the tower.
Yeah, I know they tell us that a lot, but if you noticed in the last hurricane that they had south of here, the cell tower went straight over into the roadway because of the idea that it's going to collapse straight down. And I know that's what the engineers say, but it didn't do it. So you might want to look at that, Mr. Perry. Do we have anyone here representing the, okay. Before we get into that, hold up just a minute, if you will. Before we get into that, do we have anyone here that would like to speak on the cell tower in this area? Please raise your hand if you do. We'll get to you in a minute. Do you all need a lot of discussion on this, Gary? Okay. We're pretty familiar with this and what you have to say, and we're confident in Mr. Perry that you've done the right thing. This is a second opinion, and you don't see any problem with it. The only problem I see with this, you need to back up a little bit and not have that so close to the property line. So, I don't know how much wiggle room you have there, but you probably need to look at that. I'm not defying the the opinions there, but if you notice that last cell tower that blew down, it went straight over. It didn't collapse. Yes, sir. Did you want to speak on this as a public hearing? If you'll come around.
My name is Joe Gurley. I live at 3542 Morton Lane in Smyrna, Tennessee. I was just going to comment on the collapse thing with the monopole. In my career, I built somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 300 cell towers. What you saw in that, and I saw the fall of that on the captured video, was a lattice tower. And this is a monopole. There's a difference in the design, so I think it will be fine in that criteria. And so we are looking at a difference in how a monopole falls versus a lattice tower.
Thank you, Mr. Gurley. Anyone else to the public hearing?
I'd like to state in the record, we have a letter from an engineer that was supplied by the applicant about the tower.
It still didn't change my mind, but I'm sorry.
All right.
It doesn't change mine.
Anyone else? Public hearing's open. I'm not as hard-headed as you are.
It doesn't change my mind either when it's only 10 foot from the property line.
We'll close the public hearing. We have a motion on this.
Move be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion be approved. Have a
I'll second
second.
it. I'll second
Call
it.
the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Michotto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain, William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes, it is approved. Thank you. The next item of business we have is a Cedric Jones, who is asking for a special exemption of an outdoor amusement park, amusement service, ATV track. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2019-11 is a request for special exception approval for the establishment of outdoor entertainment and amusement services involving an ATV track located on the property Zone CS Commercial Services. The property is a 5.1-acre parcel that is developed with a commercial building and associated parking areas. The applicant is seeking approval to establish ATV tracks upon the property and offer an entertainment venue that would allow them to rent ATVs, and people could go to the site and ride the tracks that are established on the properties. The applicant will be here to describe their business plan in more detail, but the applicant did supply some renderings of the proposed use. We have received many calls regarding this request. I have sent out an email with letters that were received from residents of the community and different supporting information. The copies were distributed at the pre-meeting tonight, as well as the email was sent last night. The applicant would be required to go through site plan review if this use is approved before they could actually establish any additional improvements upon the site. So most of the calls that we received were in opposition of the request, and noise, traffic safety, emergency response were among the concerns brought up by the surrounding neighbors and members of the community. So these are illustrations that were provided by the applicant to could give us an idea of what their business plan is for this property. And this is an aerial of the site. You can see the existing structure and the gravel that's already been placed on the ground. The applicant did indicate they're not planning on utilizing the entire site. However, they have been provided with the previously approved site plan showing the improvements, which included a septic area approximately in the location that they show some of the track locations. So that will be one of the concerns that they'll have to address during site plan review should this get approved. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. If you'll give us your name and any additional information you want to share on this project.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board. My name is Cedric Jones. I am the current tenant here at 8909 Couchville Pike. And I think when this letter went out to the neighbors, I think they was concerned about the noise and the traffic that's going to be in this area. And we are hosting nothing nowhere near of that magnitude. We are a small family that we are building this small ATV track for youth. It's not for a BMX track to be jumping these large hills or anything of that such. It's nowhere near that. I own an inflatable rental business. We've been in the inflatable rental business for 8 years, and our main goal is to make kids happy. The units that we will be using at this location are electric units, which is not loud at all. If anyone has operated an electric lawnmower, they will know the sound of it. It's not loud at all. Our operating hours would be from 10:30 to 4:30, so the timing would not affect any of the neighbors as far as sound, because the electric ATV units does not carry that much sound versus gas units. I know that was one of the main concerns of the neighbors, and the neighbors that are here today, I would love for you to come by and check out the property, come talk to us, introduce yourself so we can introduce ourselves. We are a Christian family. We want to host food drives. We want to host back to school giveaways on the property during those times. The main thing that we're trying to do is create memories for our families, because a lot of kids, they're stuck in the house with gaming and things of that such, and we're trying to do things that will allow the kids to get outdoors more, because that's what I grew up doing, outdoors. And I think this is just a fun thing for families to do and to go outside and have fun and create memories for their families and for their children and for themselves for a lifetime. I'm open to any questions.
Will you be furnishing the ATVs?
Yes, sir. At first, we was going to have customers bring in their own ATVs, but we have changed all of that. We're going to be furnishing all the ATVs. No one is allowed to bring in their own ATVs. We will maintain all the ATVs, and as far as sound, like I say, they are electric ATVs. You can do research on electric ATVs and see that there are no sound really to electric ATVs. And as well, as far as public health safety, they're not releasing any fumes of anything of that such, so that's not a concern as well.
How many would you have?
Yeah, I think they're thinking that we're going to be a large entertainment venue, which that is not the case. We will probably only have about 5 youth units and maybe about 8 to 10 adult units, which is not, at most, I would say it would be no more than 15 people on our property at once, not hundreds.
I'm saying, how many?
No more than 15 people. I mean, and if they bring their parents and people that comes with them, but as far as riders, no more than that.
How would you advertise this?
As far as Google is our #1 top search, and a lot of times since Nashville and surrounding areas are growing, people look for things to do when they come to Nashville, and I think this will be a good thing for people to come and do and make memories, like I said.
Gary?
So would it not make any more noise than a golf cart?
Electric golf cart, about the same.
Mm-hmm. And would you, if we were to consider this application for approval, would, and we put a condition on it that it only be electric vehicles?
Oh, yes.
That's agreeable?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Jones, thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for those of you who would like to speak on this request. If you'll come around, give us your name and information you'd like to share.
My name is Dorothy Little, and I'm not good at memorizing, so I'm going to be reading a lot of stuff here. I live at 8965 Couchville Pike, and my house is right directly behind this piece of property. And I have 12.78 acres. My husband and I built our home in 2003. He passed away in 2010. The 8909 building was built in 1990, and it's come up for zoning changes several times. It was originally an R15 residential in a residential area, and in 2009, we received a letter from a Mr. Mike Palmer stating he and 2 others were wanting to operate a business with no more than 3 employees along with 3 owners. There were certain requirements for operation, and the board was to review conditional use permit at the end of the first year. Then reviews would be every 2 years. There were to be no new buildings or additions to the existing building. He stated in his letter that the conditional use permit is null and void if they were to sell the building. This operation lasted a short while. On July 25th, 2011, we received a letter of a public hearing for another proposed zoning change. Michelle Mobbs and John Benbow applied to rezone from R15 residential to services to allow for an electrical contractor's office, and they operated there for several years. Then, November 13th, 2017, a hearing regarding a petition for a zoning change from the commercial service to commercial general to allow Mr. Julian Harbaban to purchase the property from Impulse Electrical Systems. His plan for the property was an exotic high-performance car dealership to sell, repair, and maintain vehicles as well as sell new parts. This zoning change or business never happened. Then the property, growing up again in weeds around 3 months ago, became a junkyard for around 15 to 20 wrecked cars. After making several calls by several of the residents, they were removed. And as the property sat there unoccupied, what was the next thing regarding this property we would be dealing with? Well, we received another letter dated February 25th, 2019, claiming not a new zoning change, but a special exception to be made to the existing zoning in the CS zoning district. An application was submitted by Mr. Cedric Jones requesting a special exception approval for the establishment of an outdoor entertainment and amusement services involving an ATV track upon the said property. I, along with many others that are here tonight, are stating our opposition to this special exception approval change to the existing zoning that is already in place. And we, the residents, take great pride in our properties out here in the lake area, and we're very concerned for our community. We feel it would be a public nuisance and also would destroy the peacefulness and serenity to the area. We have many wild turkeys and deer who take habitat in the area, and this would be greatly affected. Thank you very much.
Wait just a minute. Any questions here? We have an overall view now of the situation. If those of you now, if you'll come and just stick to the subject, specifically why, if you're opposed or for, and give us the short rendition of it. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to say this.
Yeah.
In 2000, we bought our property in 1997. We didn't build on it in 2003. Never ever dreamed I would be fighting an ATV track in front of my house that we spent lots of money, and I'll take a lot of pride in it, and just the same as a lot of these people that are here tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Evans. I live at 8979 Couchville Pike. We're approximately about 300 feet from the border of Mr. Jones. I'm here, of course, to ask you to not approve the proposed business for an ATV entertainment venue at 8909 Couchville Pike. And I have nothing against Mr. Cedric Jones wishing to open a business as this. However, it doesn't belong at 8909 Couchville Pike because that place is in the middle of a quiet residential community. I would just quickly like to talk about how in some areas Couchville Pike is a curvy and dangerous road. We've seen accidents happen due to speeding on wet roads and from distracted driving around the two big curves between 8909 Couchville Pike and Barnett Road. Since the building of our home in 1995, there's been many more people moving to Davidson, Wilson, and Rutherford County. Many more are using Couchville Pike as a quick shortcut to 840 and to Nissan and Smyrna, and of course Antioch and to Mount Juliet. Couchville Pike cannot handle any more traffic that would enter an ATV venue at this commercial building. There are many families whose homes surround the area of this building, and these are residential homes. These families didn't plan on having their quiet community disrupted by the noise of ATVs. I have 3 children with my husband who attend Rutherford County schools, and I considered letting my 2 older children ride the bus to and from school. However, the Rutherford bus will not stop in front of our house because we're on top of a hill, creating a blind spot from either direction. The school bus instead will pick up our kids at the corner of Corinth Road and Couchville Pike, which is approximately 500 feet from our driveway. This is a very dangerous spot to wait for the bus, and so it leads me to believe that Rutherford County Schools knows that our stretch of Couchville Pike is not safe for their school bus. Our next door neighbor, George Reyes, I don't believe he's here this evening, he has to drive his kids to this spot at the corner and wait for the bus.
Need to finish up here.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. My biggest concern and fear is for my 4-year-old son, Waylon, who's with us tonight. He is autistic and he is severely speech delayed. I'm afraid that this proposed business will not be a good environment for anyone like Waylon or any neurotypical person. I would like to also end by saying that this past Monday around lunchtime, I was at home with my father and my mother, and we heard the noise of an ATV in the proposed business. There was an ATV that was running in the back, and it was not quiet. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
If those of you who'd like to speak on this, if you'll come on around here to your left, my right, and just line up there, and we can speed this up a little more. Yeah, don't be bashful. Come on around.
My name's Bill Knight. I live at 8762 Couchville Pike. If you look to the right there, that's my farm from my right building on the right side of Couchville Pike. All that hayfield and stuff. I've been living there for 36 years. My wife and I left Davidson County. Number one, we didn't want to raise our kids in Davidson County. We wanted to get out in the country. It's not country anymore. With all the pads at 840 being built, 3 of them right now getting ready to have warehouses built on them. That road with tractor trailers going up and down it is dangerous, period. It's dangerous. Number 2, the dust. They look nice in that picture, all that nice green grass on that track. It looked real pretty. That's not what's going to happen. Once those ATVs keep running around and around, there won't be any grass. It'll be dust. So when the wind blows, it's coming my way because I live east of this property. And number 3, the traffic. If you go back to the original screen of the land, please. If you come past that building going east and come around and go up around that sharp curve down the bottom of the slide, that's still my property. There's a guardrail on the west side of that road. I would say once every 2 months, maybe 3 at the most, someone plows right into it. I've watched that guardrail be replaced 20 to 25 times in the last 10 years. I have nothing with someone trying to create a business to make a profit and help people. Well, when my wife and I moved out 36 years ago, we plan on retiring there. I'm retired. She's getting ready to retire. We want to sit on our back porch like we originally wanted to do in a peaceful environment, hearing the birds chirp, not ATVs down the road with additional traffic. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Well said.
Any questions?
Thank you. If you'll come around.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I've already sent Danielle a letter and with documentation to prove the points that I made in my letter. I was of the opinion it would be a motorized ATV type of a vehicle. I didn't know they made electric ones. But I will say this, Monday, Mr. Jones or someone was running around that track on 2 ATVs, not one. I saw them, and it wasn't electric. You could hear it. Even inside our house, and my house is insulated to meet the specifications where the county would give you back a certain percentage of, for doing the extra insulation. Everything I had to say deals with noise and vapor and that type of thing. So I'd just like to say to the board, how many of you would like an ATV 300 foot from your house track? And another thing, if this thing is approved and Mr. Jones is allowed to create this environment, the land that's there now will be scarred forever. Habitat will be destroyed, and it's just a bad situation for a nice, quiet, peaceful neighborhood that I've lived in since 1995. Thank you.
State your name, sir.
Ralph A. Neal, 8979 Couchville Pike.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wants to speak? Come on around.
Hi, my name is Sarah Craig. I live at 8988 Couchville Pike. It's that trapezoidal one across the street from the proposed ATV park. I wasn't planning on speaking, so I'm kind of nervous, sorry. We've lived there since about 12 years now, and we love it out there. It's quiet. The neighbors are friendly, but not too friendly. We all like each other. But anyway, we've had quiet businesses in there. The electrical business was nice. They make a lot of noise. They didn't create a huge amount of traffic. This, though, I have a feeling will be something entirely different. We're going to have cars in and out, people coming in and out, a lot more traffic than we have now, which is bad enough. And I'm concerned about the medical response if something happens out there, medical or fire response, because we are in the farthest corner of Rutherford County. I mean, I love the road commission. They come out and see us, but other than that, we don't see much of Rutherford County out there. So but that is a huge concern for us. So, and we like sitting out on our nice deck and enjoying the quiet, and I'm afraid that that might not be there, especially since I have no idea and can't find what the decibel level is on an electric ATV. So, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next. Wait just a minute and see, for those who haven't had a chance to speak, then I'll let you come back.
My name is Joe Gurley. I live at 3542 Morton Lane, and no, I do not live in the area, and I do not represent these as part of my constituency, but however, several of these people here are my good friends. I'm out in this area at least twice a month. I've experienced pulling out on Couchville Pike. I've almost gotten T-boned a couple of times. It's a very dangerous road. Just to one side, there's a drop-off in elevation on the road, so it's the person coming from the Mount Juliet direction is blind to what's going on there. As you've seen in the curve there, you're blind from the other direction. Sunday night I was out that way. I measured the distance back to Station 7. As far as EMS response, it's 11 miles. And so you can figure it's 15, 20-minute response to any accident that might happen. So that's my primary concern is the public safety and so on of the area. It's a very
Commissioner
dangerous
Gurley,
road.
this is in your district, is that right?
It is not in my district.
It's not in it?
No, I just have several friends.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll come on around, please.
I hadn't really, my name's Marty Hoover. I live at 9015 Couchville Pike. I'm like Sarah, I didn't really plan on speaking, but all of our concerns is the noise, the traffic. Me and my wife built our house out there in 2004. We lived in this county, I've lived in it for 51 years. We moved out there for the quietness. A lot of the warehouses stuff put extra traffic, which we have no control, you have no control of. But it's very dangerous. Coming out of my driveway, I have just about been hit probably 5 times. This property, even if they are quiet, which I've seen some of the four-wheelers and motorcycles out there, they're not, the ones I've seen, it's not electric. I know the difference, and he may have electric ones. But the noise level, even if it's quiet, the people's going to be hooping and hollering. I'm right down the lane behind there. When I'm grilling or we're sitting out on the deck or something, I'm going to hear that noise. And my concerns is the safety, the response time for anyone being hurt. I think when Bill's house burnt, it was 45 minutes for a fire department even got there. And but every one of us has issues with we have nothing against you, Mr. Jones, at all. But we moved out there for the quietness and the peaceful. As it is now, we have wonderful neighbors. And like Sarah said, they're not too much up in your business, but they'll help you do anything. Okay, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next. Anyone else, please come around. It has not had a chance. Commissioner, I'll get you last.
My name's Sherry Creviston. I live at 8038 Couchville Pike. I actually live around the S-curve at the bottom of the hill. And I do know what the response time is because my house just burnt down in September and it takes forever for anybody to get out there. And the dust and stuff, I know it's going to be bad. I'm not really familiar with electric. I do have a four-wheeler because I have a farm, and it is gas, but I use it strictly for the farm business. But I do know the dust and stuff will be bad for everybody around there. And that road is very dangerous. It's already very dangerous with traffic because 18-wheelers have been coming through there.
Thank you. If you'll come back, I'll give you a couple of minutes. I want everybody to have a chance to say what they need to at this. That's why we have public hearings.
You need to hear this. My name's Bill Knight. I live at 8762 Castle Pike, and another gentleman just referred to me as having to deal with a situation. My house burned up 6 years ago, and my son had third-degree burns on his hands, second-degree burns on his butt. Sat in the front yard 45 minutes before the ambulance got there. I had chunks of skin falling off his hands. It was burned up. The fire department is outstanding. The only concern is it's voluntary, which means when you need a fire truck, they've got to call someone to meet them at the building, gets a fire truck, and then come put the fire out. And I experienced that, mainly the ambulance service, but there was nothing I could do about it. But if you saw my son sitting out in the front yard in tremendous pain, I'll live it for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I'm still Michael Rather, and I still live at 1052 Allen Road. I don't know when I get home if my wife's moved my stuff out yet. You know, I'm basically going to repeat what a lot of them said. I'm not going to repeat it. Let me rephrase that. I didn't know my district went out that far, but I thought I was in a different time zone when I got out there. And most of the trip, I was on the phone with Danielle, and I could only get portions of what she was saying because of cell phone reception. And I actually found a spot, had to pull over in somebody's driveway to finish talking to her. And as I traveled closer to this property, I didn't have cell phone reception. So you add to the fact that the first responders are going to take longer than they should to get there. That's if you can get reception out to make the call to get the first responders there. So that's certainly a concern of mine. So, you know, I fall back on one of the first requirements, talks about the safety and welfare of the public. I went out there and I was meeting with Mrs. Little, her son, and then there was like 5 or 6 other people there, and you've heard from them. I actually met with Mr. Jones before I met with them. And I looked in the fence. My understanding was that it was the regular four-wheeler like I have just to tool around on my property, not a racing four-wheeler, because there's a huge difference in the noise and speed. So apparently that's changed from that type of four-wheeler to an electric. I'm not sure how fast electric would go, but I know there's certain golf carts I get on at Cedar Crest that go a whole lot faster than the other ones, and those are the ones I like. But anyway, so apparently that's changed, but one of the concerns when we went in the gate was the fence, and he was showing me where the young people were and where the older ones could go, and I'm pretty sure I made the comment to him that at some point somebody's going through that fence or going to hit it. If you watch America's Funniest Home Videos, or if there were videos of me when I first started riding some motorized vehicles, when it starts to get out of control, the last thing people think about doing is letting off the gas for some reason. And you see them get drug around because you're holding on to the gas. Somebody's going to hit that fence. These are, I would say, very inexperienced riders. And I say that because the folks that have land, that ride four-wheelers, they have four-wheelers, they own four-wheelers because they have the land to ride it on. So if you have a four-wheeler and you have land to ride it on, why would you go to this facility? So I'm speculating that they're probably going to be very inexperienced or zero experience. And I've got a concern about folks hitting that fence and running into each other, and it taking 20, 30 minutes for first responders to get out there. And the other thing I have to say is I had not been that far out on Couchville Pike. Again, I thought I was in another time zone. But when I went to Miss Little's house, it's kind of down in this valley and just beautiful home, beautiful property. And as I got out of my truck, I thought, this is one of those places, and they're few and far between in the county anymore, where you could be sitting on your front porch and actually hear people talking way down the road because it's just that quiet. So I don't really know how loud electric ATVs are, but I can tell you I drove in Miss Little's driveway, and I was early, so I decided to go back to the building to Mr. Jones because I saw him there, and I was scared to death to pull out of her driveway. I said it earlier in another application, there's very few people do the speed limits anymore, and I did pass several tractor trailers along the way and the cars that were doing, as fast as they could go, I guess. So I think it's a great idea. I just think it's the wrong place for several reasons, and I know I may be repeating what I said in the other application on Florence Road, but that's the first time I'd been out there, and somebody's going to get hit at some point pulling out of there. I think Miss Little and her son and the others, especially y'all, if you pull out of your driveway, you're practically taking your life in your own hands, because you got a hill on this side and a sharp curve on this side that blinds you from actually past this building before I realized it was there. That's how blind that curve was. So those are my concerns. I'm really concerned if this gets passed. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's likely to happen that somebody's going to get hurt, and you're not going to be able to get out to make a phone call, and if you do, it's 20, 30 minutes away to get you some help. And some of you know seconds can make the difference between life and death. Thank you for listening to me, and I will not stand up here again tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. There'll be better days. Anyone else? We're going to close the public hearing at this time. We have enough information. Mr. Jones, I really appreciate the comments that you made about the ideals of taking care of children and having a place for them to be at certain times. I think that's very good high ideals. One of the things that we have to look at as a board is how it impacts a neighborhood, and I'm very much concerned about that. I don't think that some of this is probably a problem with the way the county commission has said that these types of businesses would be in a home-based business. To me, this is more than a home-based business, and there should be a category separate for this type of thing, like gun ranges and such a thing, and several other. So I'm not criticizing anyone for it. I'm just telling you what this board has facing us. And when we look at items, requirements that you cannot have vibrations, heat, glare, dust, odors, noise, and things that could adversely affect the neighborhood, there's no doubt about that this is one of those home-based businesses that shouldn't even be in this category. So that's what I see as your chair up here. Now, I don't make motions. Only the board can do that. So we'll open this now for the board to make its comments.
Mr. Chairman, with that being said, I'll make a motion that we deny the request because it's not conducive to the neighborhood.
We'll have a second.
I'll second it.
Did you get all that?
I did, yes, sir.
Okay.
But
And add
to
this
straighten
to
this
it.
out a little bit, this is actually zoned commercial. It is a commercial property. This is just not the right commercial venture for it.
Any other comments? Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan, Joe Machado,
Yes?
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Any other business to come before the board? No, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, neighbors, for being here. We are adjourned.